your name, where you were from originally, and how you actually became a minister as well of the church, and your actually position within the church. That's what we want to start off with.
Okay. So my name's Andy Williams. I was born in Watford, but left when I was 1 year old, so it didn't make a huge difference. Then I lived in the Midlands, which is where I grew up, and then I came north to Manchester in 1986 to train for the Baptist ministry, and that was 4 years training in Manchester. And then I was ordained as a Baptist minister when I was in 1990. Worked in Manchester for 7 years as the minister of Didsbury Baptist Church. Then went to Glasgow for a year to do a master's degree in theology. And it was then that I came to Sion in 1998 to be the minister here. And have been ever since, although now I'm only half of the minister here.
50-50.
And I think one of the things that was particularly striking to me about this church when I came to visit it first of all was the mix of people was a wider mix of people than you get very often in church communities, I think. So it was interesting to me that there were people here who were accountants and solicitors, and there were people who were kind of working in factories, and everybody was getting on together within the life of the church. And I thought that actually is something that I like and that is distinctive. And I think that's perhaps a bit, I think that's still so today in different kinds of ways. So that was something that attracted me to the church. The other thing was that at that time, Sainsbury's was in the building next door.
Ask you that question.
And they were wanting to buy the church out and build a new church over there nearer the canal. And the church had been sort of discussing this with them and about it. So originally when I came to meet the deacons to talk about being the minister here, they were saying to me, well, we think we'll have a new church and you'll get involved in kitting out the new church. And then by the time I came, Sainsbury's had gone in a different direction.
So was there a reason why they didn't buy it out?
And it wasn't going to happen. I think there's probably quite a lot of politics behind why it didn't all go ahead, but eventually they moved up to the Prestige site instead of building a whole new Sainsbury's here. And so then, so there was a bit of a disappointment actually from me, because I thought there was going to be a brand new church building that we were going to have, and then we had this big 1960s place, and I think that sort of coloured my view a little bit. I was a bit disappointed about that in a way, and so it took us a while to sort of recover from that really, and a lot of things perhaps hadn't got done to this building for a while because we'd been thinking it might get knocked down, but actually it didn't. So then we had to sort of pick ourselves up from that and think about, okay, what's the future here? So
I mean, do you feel that's something that should have been in this church when it was built initially, which isn't built, or there isn't space for it now at the moment?
Anything that there should have been?
There should have been, yeah, when they originally planned it.
No, not really. I mean, I think, as Clifford would probably say, it would be good if we didn't have a flat roof.
Yeah.
But in terms of the facilities that were built here, I think actually it's a church building that works very well, because you've got completely dedicated space for worship. So it's completely separate, it's not multi-purpose and stuff, so you can do things in there. At the same time, you can do things in the hall, you can do things in these rooms as well. So actually, I think the facilities are really good, and we're really fortunate. And often we forget that, and then people come to visit and they say, wow, what a fantastic church building. You're so lucky to have all this space, and we are. But I think the flip side of that is that it becomes a challenge to maintain it, and Clifford's done a lot of maintaining this building through the years. and that's ongoing. And now that the building's 50 years old, there's more stuff that goes wrong with it, more money that needs to be spent on looking after it. And I'm not sure how. I think once this building was built, the church started to invite people from the community who weren't necessarily from the church to start meeting in the building for different activities. And I think that would have started with this building, I don't know.
More so with this.
That wouldn't have been the case before, I think, in the church.
Apart from the brigades,
right.
the Boys and Girls Brigade,
Yeah,
and maybe youth activities when people...
But that was all run by the church, wasn't it?
It was run by
the church,
yeah,
really.
That's right. I don't think the rooms were rented out as such.
Because there would have been so many people coming and so much going on.
Well, that's right.
There wouldn't have been space or time.
Every night,
yeah, back then. So gradually there started to be more community use of the building, and that was one of the things that I was interested in going to the church. And for me it's always very important not just to be a minister in the church, but to be a minister in and for the community outside as well. And so that's something that I wanted very much to sort of be both and bring the two together more in coming here. So I think that's what, in a sense, we've done. And the building now is used a lot by the community as well as by the church. And because there aren't as many church activities as there were years ago, and less people than there were years ago, there's more space for all sorts of different groups to come. So the place is used for dancing and camera club and ballet and all sorts of activities that the community want to do that now happen in the church. And I like that sense that this is a place that's in use every day, and people come in and go out of it every day, not just for church but for the community kind of use as well. So all of that's I think is valuable, and it's a part of how the church is involved in the community today that's different from how it was in the 1950s. And in a sense, in the 1950s, I think the church was the community. In a sense, you had two choices back then. Either you went to church and you were part of church, or you went to the pub. And that was basically the choice in terms of what was available to do. And people didn't stay at home so much because homes were crowded, and so you needed to go out and do stuff.
No TV.
You didn't stay at home on your computer or on your phone or whatever. You had to, you went out to do things. So in that sense, if you're involved in the church, then the church was very much your community, and you could be involved certainly every day of the week in church, as we've talked about already. And that's, if you want to be, that's almost still true today. You can still get involved almost every day of the week, but probably not quite, because there's not quite as much going on as there would have been years ago. And I think some of the other kind of social changes have been that I think after the Second World War, there were quite a lot of men who had been a part of church before the war, but either died or came back, and because of their experiences of what the Second World War was like, they couldn't believe in God in the same way anymore, and they couldn't come back to church in the same way that they'd done before. And I think that made a big difference to church communities, so that now